Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into Traffic Jam. Due to social media, we are now being made more aware of cases of sex trafficking, disappearances, and things of that nature. But have you ever wondered why you never hear much of anything about sex trafficking laws and what's being done to combat this problem? Recently, I read a Washington Post article entitled "Why Laws to Fight Sex Trafficking Always Backfire." I'll break it down for you guys. Hallie Lieberman, the author of this article, began by discussing steps the Trump administration are taking to combat sex trafficking. Recently, the Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act, or FOSTA, was put in place to protect children from being trafficked. However, she then compares this act to another from 1910, when President William Howard Taft released the White Slave Act, or the Mann Act. This was intended to protect women and children from being trafficked across state lines. Unfortunately, this act was then twisted, used to promote fear of immigrants and racism within the country. The White Slave Act indirectly protected only white women and children. People caught transporting black women and children across state lines rarely faced consequences. On the flip side, black men going across state lines with their white girlfriends were often prosecuted under that same act and punished, and the racism didn't end with black people. Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe were often blamed for the trafficking under this act, with media sources using false reports and statistics to spread fear in America. In addition to the racial issues, this act was discriminatory. It ignored the boys and young men that were also unfortunately trafficked. This act ruined the female sex working industry, but male sex workers weren't badly affected as females. The worst part of this act is that it was essentially a waste of time and energy that ruined the consensual sex working industry for women and increased racial tensions. Only about 5% of the convictions under this act were actually related to sexual acts with force. The majority of convictions targeted consensual sex workers. And unfortunately, Trump's FOSTA is heading in the same direction. There are the same fear tactics used with immigrants, from accusations to false statistics. These laws intended to prevent sex trafficking and protect women are doing more harm to the general population than good. As we all know, history often repeats itself. The last thing this country needs is more hatred, racism, sexism, and just general separation, and that's all laws like the Mann Act and the FOSTA bring. If we want to be able to make an impact on the sex trafficking problem in this country, we need to work harder, and it can't just be presidents passing laws and not backing them up with actions. What we need is more shelters and resources for victims, and more ways to combat the sex trafficking crisis, not only in America but worldwide. And not just with laws, but with actions. We need less negativity in the media around the issue and more coverage of victim stories and how other victims can get help. Of course, this won't happen overnight. It will be a lot of work and dedication to the cause. But anything would be better than these ineffective, inefficient laws that are only bringing more separation and hatred to a country that doesn't need it. Anyways, that's all for now. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Traffic Jam.